Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Administrator Issues and Updates, January 27th, 2026. And County Administrator Gary Smith, would you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Roll call. Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Commissioner Helm.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner West.
Here.
Chair Roberts.
Here. And thank you. I wanted to apologize for being late today. Had a long executive session, and we honestly were working diligently on county business. We just apologize for being late, and we'll move on. So I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners, convene as Extension 4H Service District Board of Directors. Gary, would you please introduce the first agenda item?
Thank you. You're meeting as the Extension 4H Service District. This is an update on the Oregon State University Extension Service, Clackamas County College Building Update. Nancy Bush, County Operating Officer, will present. Go ahead, please, Nancy.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. So we just wanted to do a little bit of an update on how the construction is going, and also wanted to talk a little bit about the letter that each of you received from OSU Extension and from the Vice Provost there. So to let you know, the construction is going well. It is construction, so there's a lot of different things that we're still working out as we're moving forward, but we are committed to the building. OSU Extension is committed to the building as well as we are here at Clackamas County and Clackamas Community College as well. We have several meetings this week. I'll be in a meeting all afternoon on Thursday, for example, to go over, like, we're looking at FF&E, we're looking at space and what that may look like. We're still firming up numbers, and as with all constructions, there's a little bit of cushion that is built in there as well. And the items that were in the letter, for example, Commissioner Schrader did a great job in the meeting we had with them to go through every item to make sure that those were addressed and all those concerns were looked at. We continue, the value engineering has not been done yet, which I think is really important to understand. And someone who just got out of the courthouse understands value engineering can save you, in this case, hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars in the building, depending on where we're going. So I'm pretty comfortable, and I believe the Vice Provost as well as Commissioner Schrader are comfortable that we're within our 15.1 million. And we would just continue to move down this road and continue to work really closely with OSU and Clackamas Community College. So I don't know if Commissioner Schrader, if you have anything you'd like to add to that.
Well, thank you for that, Nancy. You've done a fantastic job, and it's been, I think, a really good discussion. As I said, we did get, as you already mentioned, we got a lot of concerns from OSU in terms of, the space, how they're going to co-locate, how they'll move forward together. But I think we managed to get through every single point really well. And I personally think and have been saying to them that from my perspective, this is not only going to be good for Clackamas Community College, but certainly good for Oregon State University, because oftentimes students will transfer after having a few years of community college. And given the fact that they have very strong horticultural programs and science programs, and agricultural programs, and that the fact that the Environmental Learning Center is right close to them, to where they would be located. It would also give them opportunities for more programming, and hopefully get a pipeline of students that want to continue and finish their last 2 years at Oregon State University. And Tim Cook has been fantastic to work with. And I think that we're helping them learn all about value engineering, if you would know what that is. And okay, let's see what we can do, let's see what we can't do, and let's move forward to meet everybody's needs. So I want to thank you for having the faith in me in order to help manage these conversations. I love OSU. I'm still part of their Master Melitologist program, the B program. And I also worked back in the day, many years ago, when I was in the legislature with Representative and then Senator Schrader to help them move into having actually procuring the money to get a 4-year vet school. So I'm happy I can continue that kind of work here.
Thank you. Just to add to that a little bit too, some of the programs that are co-located in the building with OSU are actually those programs that the commissioner just mentioned.
Okay, so
Great, thank you.
that's what
Any
we
other
got.
questions? I do see a couple there. So Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, Nancy, thank you for this, and great job on the courthouse project. So because you're the courthouse point person, my question is, I'm intrigued by appreciate the $1,207 per square foot for this project, the OSU project. Do you have a ballpark idea what the courthouse cost per square foot?
I do not, but I can get that. It
Thank you.
seems like it approached around 2,000 because of the security issues, but I would have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner West.
Are we officially settled on the Clackamas County Community College being the location? I know there was recent conversations around
Yes.
location. There was some tension, some conversations happening. How did those get resolved? And then where are we at for sure today? And then,
Yes.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so for sure today, yes, we are committed.
We are.
To Clackamas
we are
Community
all in,
College.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We're past the point of return.
Yeah.
Okay, so this conversations around Bob's Red Mill or other locations and
Yeah.
different dreams and ideas, we are settling and getting more concrete.
Yeah, we are past the point of return because at this point, they have the contract for the building, et cetera, based on our 15.1 million commitment.
Okay.
So we're past that point. I will say we do continue to work with them closely to make sure all the questions are answered. There is a little bit of push and pull because there's a lot going on at Clackamas Community College. And of course, they have their bond too, which they have to also spend by a certain time. And they also have a finite amount of money, which I think hasn't been completely understood. And so it's getting much better, but there's been well, all we talked about today was Clackamas Community College. And then there's been, well, all we talked about today was OSU. Both of those things are true because both of those things have to happen. But with the commissioner being at the table and like when we receive the letter, we literally sit down and go through everything together. Dr. Cook was in that meeting, the vice provost. So we have all levels that have the conversation, have input to make sure that we're getting through all those issues. And like any construction, everyone's not going to be happy all the time. And we're facing that a little bit, but
Okay.
there's some things we've added that's been really good for
Yeah.
CCC that OSU is going to pay for. I mean, I'm sorry, CCE is going to pay for.
Okay.
So,
So the district is involved in the capital improvement and that the taxpayers in Clackamas County have participated in paying those dollars to build the 4-H service district. Is Oregon State University, their extension service, are they in charge of the programming and the operations of everything? Or is the district also paying for O&M?
so there is a mixture of funding. And we've actually asked for, we've asked for the breakdown because we have about $3 million in district money. All the district money that has been collected is going for the building. So there's not another mixture. There's some programming dollars that comes in from OSU Extension as well. And I believe that they pay for some staff. Again, we're asking for that breakdown. And they do have some federal funding.
Yeah, this money has been set aside for a number of
Yes.
years specifically to build a building. And they had at one time wanted to share a building with us on the campus. And there wasn't enough money to do that.
Right.
But historically, when you look at it, I think they were supposed to be sharing it. If we built it here, they'd be sharing it with emergency management, I think, was the,
That's correct.
yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes. But all of the money for the building is district
it's
money.
district money.
It's district money. Okay. And then Oregon State University, what is their financial role?
Their financial role is mostly around programming.
That's what I thought. Okay,
Right.
so that's
Yeah.
my question. Yeah.
Yes,
Staffing and
mostly their
programming.
money that they give to it, which I don't have that breakdown yet for them, which I've asked for, goes to programming and to staff,
Okay. So we're capital, they're running the show.
for the most part, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Not seeing any other questions. This is informational only, and we'll move on. I'll adjourn as the Extension 4-H Service District Board of Directors, reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners, and turn to Gary as to next agenda item.
Thank you. Next is Dog Services Funding Strategies. You discussed this previously, Commissioners. You asked staff to come back to you with options of how to raise revenue for dog services, and this is what that is. Presenting is Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development, and Mike Besner, Assistant Director of Transportation and Development. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. Chair Roberts, Commissioners, so just for the public's benefit, Dog Services provides a shelter to house stray and dangerous dogs, as well as a statutory mandated licensing and enforcement of rabies vaccinations. And we have been here a number of times talking to you. One was in the budget process last year, trying to secure additional revenue, but with the many needs that are spread throughout the county, that wasn't possible. We came back to you on September 9th and had a discussion regarding adjustment of service levels to meet current funding levels. And at the conclusion of that, you had interest in discussing a couple of other funding revenues in a little more detail. So we are here to do that with you. I'm going to have Mike Besner take the lead and kind of running through those with you just here briefly.
Good morning. So 3 things in particular came up in September when we were here, and I'll talk about all 3 of them. One was increasing licensing fees, one was increasing enforcement, and the other was reaching out to our city partners for further contributions. So starting with the license fees, just want to let you know we have actually increased them in a few ways. One, July 1st of last year, it was approved as part of the budget, was a fee increase for licenses. That was part of the right sizing that went through much of the county. We also got rid of discounts that had been previously available if you paid for multiple years up front, reduced the revenue we would collect over the long term. We also raised the late fee maximum. From when people were late, we would charge them a little bit more. And the issue with raising it further, there's a diminishing return. Right now, we're already, nationwide, there's an issue with licensing. It's a minority of dog owners that license dogs. It's not a Clackamas County problem. It's everywhere. Enforcement of it is pretty difficult. But where our license fees are now, we're above Multnomah County. We're probably also a little above Washington County, only because their rates are higher, but they offer a lot of discounts. They offer that we don't. They offer the multi-year discount, and they offer discounts for people who are 65 and older. So we're right in the sweet spot with our partners, but we're even probably a little bit higher. Regarding enforcement, that is something we do, and we have actually stepped it up over the past, I'd say, year plus. We have a dog licensing officer at the shelter, and that's almost their full-time job. And what happens is in Clackamas County, it's in our code, if someone brings their dog to the vet and they get a rabies vaccination, it's the law that they report that vaccination to us. The ones we get, we then kind of look at them and check them against dog licenses, and if they don't have them, we're going to be calling them, reaching out to them, sending citations, whatever we have to in our process. And we have stepped up those efforts, and it has worked. Our licensing is up about 20%. And so that is revenue, and that's important. And again, remember, it's also proof of rabies vaccinations, which is a public health concern. So that's working well. Of course, when we're low on staff, we sometimes have to take that licensing officer and go have them help out in the shelter in other ways. But the efforts have helped. The last one was charging cities for the use of the shelter. And we have agreements with some of our cities that they're kind of all over the place. 2 of our cities, Lake Oswego and Happy Valley, actually do their own licensing. And they keep that revenue. All the other cities use the county for licensing. They have their own animal control program. Some of them, I know Happy Valley, we have an agreement where if a dog from Happy Valley's in the shelter, we charge Happy Valley for it and not the dog owner. It's kind of, there's a lot of IGAs that have been developed over the years. But there's no set amount that cities are contributing for operation of the shelter. Any of them. for that matter. So we actually have already developed a model, let's say, that said, hey, if we reached out to, let's say, all cities above a population of 1,000, it could be done, and we could start to talk to them and try and get enough money to hire 2 more animal care specialists. And it has been an issue with the cities, because as you know, we've had some times here where we've had to lower our dog cap. And police departments from the cities have been unable to bring dogs to us. We've turned them away, and they're well aware of the situation. So of these options, looking for a way to raise revenue, our recommendation would be to reach out to the cities and try and negotiate something.
Questions? I guess I have one. And the increased fee, so I just want to kind of be clear on this. So you had mentioned, I believe, Washington County has a discount fee for 65 and older, is that right?
Yep.
And so is that your recommendation or not?
No,
I wanna be
we're not
clear.
recommending further discounts.
Right.
At this time. We're just, I'm just making a point that although their license fee is a little higher than ours, they have discounts for some people, so they're actually probably collecting less.
Yeah, I just, I talked to a senior the other day that's on obviously a fixed income, and one of the things they pointed out to me was, well, they received their Social Security COLA with 2.8%, right? Their Medicare went up more than that, so they're basically flush. And I just know we're having a lot of seniors really struggle, and that was the only thing I saw in there. I kind of thought was a good idea, but I can also understand not wanting to create a ton of discounts into the categories, which complicates things too. So, Commissioner Savish, you have a comment?
Yeah, it was kind of like an overall question, not necessarily specific to this, but, you know, in the years past, we've talked about, you know, if there was a utility building that went countywide, our ability to work with that utility to say, can we have a fee collected by, you know, one, you know, power utility, for example, that was been mentioned before. And I was told that the answer is yes, you could. I'm just wondering about some of these fees like this, or even law enforcement, or whatever it may be. There might be opportunities to have a modest, you know, very modest fee be collected by the utility, you know, and it's countywide, whereas we don't have a utility that we own that we can do that. The cities do that, for example, and it's not all cities, but, you know, they're adding on their utility fees. So I'm just wondering if that's not a modest, reasonable way to approach the challenge that we're facing.
To create something, because as you mentioned, we don't have a utility that we could just call up countywide, and I guess I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
Well, I mean, let's just use law enforcement. I'll just use that as an example. So, I mean, if there was a utility fee for, you know, law enforcement for a particular thing, let's say it's cars, or it's a jail, or whatever it may be, right? Could we use, let's say, a power utility that's countywide and have them do the billing on our behalf? You know, it's not for them. They're just doing an annual billing. They have all the addresses. They're doing it currently. And we can collect revenue for that particular thing, right? And have it, you know, of course, go through an ordinance and all that thing, so there's a public process. But I'm just saying, as a for instance, is that something that we should start looking at?
We could take a look. I know there are things that exist you mentioned, exist on power bills. I'm just not sure about a fee for dogs or a dog shelter. I'd have to look into it.
I mean, theoretically, yes. The viability is a challenge because you got to have that utility agree. We don't control a utility that's out there. You mentioned about the only one that is probably covers a large majority of the county. I mean, just all the complications around the districts that we have. I can't even think of another utility that would, because waste, you know, I think about like garbage haulers and waste, that doesn't happen. That's probably our next lowest, so, yeah.
I mean, it seems reasonable that a city could do that, right? Let's just say it's for dog services, they can impose that, but it's not fair for necessarily the patrons or the people of the city to pay for it, and then other areas that don't have a billing mechanism to not pay for it, right? It's this equity, so I'm just kind of looking at it as a neutral way to neutralize that so that everyone's paying a fair share. Whatever, it's just a means in which the cities have this ability that we don't, and how do we, I don't say level out, but how do we do something similar? Just throwing that out there. You don't need to answer. It's just fodder for.
I do want to highlight, because it's not a part of your packet, some of the work that Mike's done and other folks in our organization have done is really looked at, because the equitable distribution of that cost is important. And you heard the discussion around, for example, they're looking at populations, populations over 1,000. We have some very small cities like Johnson City and some others that have negligible to no impact. But it's on how to split those costs up, and we have concepts around that based off the number and population for a particular area. And that was kind of the way of at least equitably distributing the cost across the cities. It was our intent. We hadn't put a lot of thought into the collection alternatives that are out there. So.
Yeah. And, we had that lady come here who had been basically was threatened by a dog, right? She had these constant, so I can relate to that because we had one in my neighborhood, and every one of my neighbors in this proximity was scared to death to go out their mailbox because of the dog that was run loose. So my point of raising this is, it's not just a benefit for the dog owners, it's definitely a benefit for the people at large that maybe don't own a dog, but are being victimized by a dog.
100%.
We all agree to be safe, right? People need to be safe. And I think that's part of our state responsibility, or responsibility imposed by the state.
All right, thank you. Commissioner West.
Thank you. When you go to register or license your dog, there are vet records that you also have to supply, am I right?
Rabies, a certificate of rabies vaccination.
So you have to go to your vet and get all of that information, submit that with the cost or the fee. And you can, just process-wise, you can do this on the website, right? And there is different years, like you can do 3 years at once or 1 year. Can you, what does that look like to the user? Can you remind me?
Yeah, and it did change July 1st, and so I might not get this exactly right. But yeah, we have an option. I think we have an option for a 1 and a 3 year. We used to do a 2 year. I think we eliminated to make it simpler. But yeah, there is that option. You could pay for 1 or I believe 3 years. There's no discount anymore for buying the 3 years, but other than you don't have to deal with it for 3 years.
Do you have any evidence that some discounts improve compliance?
No, I would say, again, the fact that over the past year, we've gotten licensing up about 20%, and a good portion of that was without the discount. I don't think it did.
So service dogs or veterans or 65 and or older, it's just a flat, everybody gets hit the same?
We don't offer any specific
No discounts, okay. Have we talked about, because I'm one of these individuals that needs to pay my dog licensing fee, as I found out on this dais, and then emails were sent to me by staff. By the way, Commissioner, correct, you need to be compliant too. But I didn't know, right? A lot of people have no idea. I bet you most of my neighbors literally have no idea that they're not compliant, or they thought they were. And so there's just this, so is there a strategy to find those individuals to at least give them notification that they need to do this or they need to license their dog? Because that's a lot of revenue just sitting out there uncaptured.
I agree, and thanks for bringing that up. We've tried. We've done it in the past. We've had it go out in the Clackamas newsletter. I don't remember what we call it now. We've had it go out. We've had ads. We once had a little firm create a little tag for us, tag you're it. We've done marketing campaigns. Very few of them seem to do much. Frankly, the staff we had working on that, we don't have anymore.
Yeah.
So it's difficult with so few people to ramp up and do a lot. But we do that, and when we do get notifications, we try and use a soft touch. A lot of it is literally a phone call, and people appreciate it. And a lot of it is, I had no idea. You're 100% correct.
It's like a lot of
Yeah.
uncaptured. So how to capture that without also being heavy-handed is important.
Yeah.
Do we work directly with a number or the majority a number of the veterinarians in Clackamas County to say, we need to partner with you because this is a benefit not only to the veterinary community who wants rabies and vaccinated animals to be, and animals be cared for. So it's a win-win. And then is there a way for them to work through their client lists and say, I don't think dogs have HIPAA. So they work through their client list to try to send out notifications or partner with them to do a public campaign with veterinarians.
We do. Some
do.
of them will issue licenses on our behalf.
Okay.
Some don't want to. And some, they just don't want to deal with it. Some don't want to give any clients' information to us. And so
Okay.
they're kind of all over the board, but so it's a mixed bag. But
Can
we
the board
definitely work with all the
Can the
ones who will
board
work
pass
with
an
us.
ordinance requiring veterinary clinics to work to comply with licensing of animals?
I'd have to look into that. As mentioned, there already is on the books a law saying they have to report rabies vaccinations to us.
Okay.
And so that's what we're using right now, and that's how we were able to increase licensing so much.
So ABC Veterinary, just to understand process, ABC Veterinary Clinic gets a new puppy in, they give the vaccination to the puppy. That is a public record at that point, or that has to be turned over to dog services, and that has the information of the owner attached to it. So then we reach out to the owner and say, we know your dog has a rabies vac. So are we having 100% compliance with veterinary clinics doing that?
Well, we haven't in the past, and that's again part of the ramp up was we said this has to stop and we have to make them comply.
So if they
And
don't comply, can we find the veterinary clinic?
I believe we can. It gets complicated because, it becomes a code violation, and now you have to say, well, who was the violator? Was it the vet who actually gave the rabies vaccination? Is it the owner of the clinic? And how do we discover that? It gets complex. We've had a lot of these discussions, how to do enforcement of it. Compliance has gotten much, much better since we've ramped it up. Our licensed compliance officer actually visited all the vets we were having problems with, and I know it got a lot better.
Okay.
And we'll keep doing that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I don't know how we do a utility fee on like my PGE bill, but my dog has nothing to do with my electric bill. So as a consumer, I would be annoyed. It would bug me, and I would squawk about, what's this new fee? My electricity has nothing to do with Fido. I don't know how you, it's a randomness, it's kind of random.
That's what I'll
Even if we can do it, I don't know if that, I don't know. I mean, you're just throwing ideas out there, Commissioner, but.
Yeah, if I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I just threw that out, not necessarily, I didn't think this was the greatest fit, right? But I was just putting that out in general as something for fodder for other discussions as we're tackling this challenge. But I do want to say, I'm willing to go with the recommendation that you all talk to the cities, but this is probably the most important point I want to make in this discussion about the city versus the unincorporated. What a lot of people don't know is that the unincorporated property owners pay 57 cents more per thousand than those who live in a city. Okay, they're paying a city rate. Okay, so I don't want to be mindful of that. They're paying a city rate, and they're also paying the county rate. So, I would argue that that let the cities and the city managers and the councils know that, or remind them. Maybe some don't know, and clearly some don't know. Some do. That the unincorporated citizens are paying 57 cents more per thousand. And I'd like to know what that average is on an average home. When you equate that, is that $100 a year? Is that $500? I don't know what that number is, but it would be a bad number to know. And then people can say, well, okay, county, what are you doing with money? But I won't go there. But I just want to put that out there that if that could be in your conversations, that could be shared, that we're cognizant that the unincorporated areas are paying, 57 cents more per thousand.
Thanks for that info.
All right. One last comment I was going to make, and then I'll turn to my colleagues, perhaps a motion. But I can just say it is such an important service. I know it's struggled for funding for years. Dan tried to give to the sheriff's office many times, and I said, Dan, you're doing a great job. And if funding for it has been an issue, and I think we should have further discussion at some point. You know, I think this is a great direction. The cities do benefit having a place to take dogs. And I know that it really is an important service, and everybody loves animals, and I think it's important to have a place to take them when in need and figuring out a way to cover it. I would just kind of comment, I sure would love to see some possible discounts for seniors. I don't want to make it too complicated. I'm sure in favor of the direction you're headed. I think you're right on track to look at having conversations with the cities. They need a place as well. I just think economic out there's extremely hard. So perhaps look at that. I wouldn't want to create a whole bunch of different discounts for a number of other reasons, but perhaps for seniors or those that are disabled or something. So I see Commissioner Schrader has a comment. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say when we can't provide services, these dogs suffer. That's the other thing. And what I was hearing from a young constituent that wanted to come talk to me that evidently works at dog services, that's the biggest concern, is that sometimes now we're not having the capacity to take in some of these stray dogs, which is concerning because
We don't.
no,
We
I
don't
know
have the
you
capacity
don't.
to bring them home. And
I know, and to me, that's the biggest worry because these animals are out, these pets are out there, or lost dogs, they're just hanging out there in weather like this now and are suffering just as much as I.
And it fluctuates. I mean,
else.
the number fluctuates to the availability of staff and at levels we have. We look at taking the most dangerous dogs,
Right.
working with law enforcement. A lot of the work they do is to make sure those dogs get secured in a proper fashion and are taken care of. But there have been some adoptions, some requests that have been turned away.
Well, and people get pretty upset. It's not unusual for people with dog services to have to call the sheriff's office for help. Happened again this past week.
Yeah.
It's a,
Why, can you tell me why that happened?
we wouldn't take the dog.
Oh.
And they got unacceptably angry.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, it was a threat.
And I also can say, just from past experience, deputies oftentimes get calls of animals dumped in the forest, right? And I
Yep.
can tell you, I've seen a number of deputies take those pets home and because there really was no place to take them. So anyway, it is a critical service, and I think it's further discussion for all of us to look, is there any other options for funding? I know that's tight, Gary, and but I think it's something we can look at. So with that, I'll turn to my colleagues. Does anybody want to make a motion for me?
I move to direct staff to begin negotiating with cities to charge a fee for use of the county dog shelter to be used to add 2 full-time shelter workers.
I will second that.
All right, Commissioner Helm has moved to direct staff to begin negotiating with cities to charge a fee for use of county dog shelter to be used to add 2 full-time shelter workers. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Savis,
Aye.
Commissioner Helm,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much.
so much.
Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Next, a social games license application for the Oregon Poker Club. Tony Marinick, Policy Advisor for the Board's Office, will present. Go ahead, please, Tony.
Commissioners, you may know this, the county licenses social gaming, that is the playing of poker or other card games in social settings. The Oregon Poker Club has had a license for many years. It goes back at least as far as 2018. They're seeking to renew their annual license. Staff are seeking to put this renewal on the next available consent agenda. Happy to address any questions you might have.
Any questions, anyone? Right, not seeing any questions. This will go on the consent agenda for Thursday's business meeting. So thank you very much, and that was very quick, Tony, thanks. Gary, what's next?
Excellent, Tony. Concise. Very good. Next, Board Representative to the Metro Supportive Housing Services Regional Policy and Oversight Committee. Emily Klepper, Policy Advisor for the Board's office, will present. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Board. I have been here previously to talk to you about the decisions that Metro Council was making regarding reform to the Supportive Housing Services Program. One of those things is combining the Oversight Committee with the Tri-County Planning Body. So that work is underway. And you received a letter from Metro Council President Peterson asking for a board representative to serve on this single Oversight Committee now. That's what I'm here to ask for.
Right. Commissioner West.
I would like to be the board's nominee to this oversight committee. I also was the chair task force for these changes with President Peterson. I think there's a chance that I actually might end up co-chairing this oversight committee too, initially. So I'd like to continue to work that I've already been doing.
All right.
I nominate Commissioner West as representative to the new Supportive Housing Services Regional Policy and Oversight Committee, and Commissioner, Schrader, a second.
I'll do it.
Oh,
Okay.
did you second? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Like there needs to be an alternative on that also.
Oh, okay.
Who does it? I don't,
I didn't know if you were raising your hand, Martha, as the,
I would be interested in being the alternate, getting
Oh,
involved
okay.
in it. But Chair, you're already doing it. Would you prefer to keep
Yeah, but
that?
if that's something you'd like, that's
Yeah,
fine.
really?
You
Oh,
want to
okay.
do it?
Yeah, I'd like working with Ben
I know you do.
and Emily,
Okay.
as long as you don't mind.
So it sounds like Commissioner Schrader's a second. So is there a second on that motion?
I'll second that, along with the one for Commissioner West Smith-Jones.
All right, I'm taking a hard time here. So
I never
as-
let you live it down.
Yeah, I understand this. So Commissioner Schrader, Commissioner Helm has nominated Commissioner West as a representative to the new Supportive Housing Services Regional Policy and Oversight Committee, and Commissioner Schrader as an alternate. Commissioner Savas has seconded that. Any further discussion? Only thing I'd like to say is I want to thank you both for volunteering to step up, and it's a very important role, and housing is absolutely critical. So my thanks to both of you for stepping up, and with that, I'll ask the clerk to call the poll.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Helm.
aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. And Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Next is the Association of Oregon Counties Annual Membership Dues. For 2026, the annual membership dues is $143,782.09. That includes membership in the Council of Forest Trust Land Counties, of which we are one. This is approximately a 2.5% increase from the prior year's dues. This has been budgeted in our office, and it is paid entirely through county general funds. However, I'm seeking your permission to pay these dues for 2026.
Chair, I move that we approve the payment of the 2026 Association of Oregon Counties dues in the amount of $143,782.09.
I will second that.
All right, Commissioner West has moved to approve the payment of the 2026 Association of Oregon Counties dues in the amount of $143,782.09. Commissioner Schrader seconded. Any further discussion?
Is, just one quick
Yes,
question. Is
go
this
ahead.
based on population? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Not how many commissioners we have?
Population, correct.
Population only. Okay, thank you.
Bigger counties pay more
Yep.
based because of population, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Andrew, would you call the poll for us?
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. Gary? what's
Next, review of your board business meeting agenda for this Thursday, January 29th, 2026 at 10 a.m. You have public communication, a presentation from the Energy Trust of Oregon presenting you a big check to thank us for our efficient energy savings for the replacement county courthouse. Big check presentation ceremony. It'll be very, very nice. A public hearing for the Service District Number 5 street lighting, which is the second reading of an ordinance that changes the code on street lighting rules and regulations. A shorter consent agenda this time, and that is your business meeting agenda. If you have any questions on these items, if you please let me know so I may answer them, or have staff in the room for you on Thursday to answer your questions. Thank you. The final item today is Commissioner Communications.
Thank you, Gary.
And if I could,
Yes.
Chair, I'm jetting out for another meeting.
Okay.
So I'm going to skip.
You want to
my
make a comment first? I'll take you out of order if you'd like.
That's all right. No,
You sure?
I'll share later.
Okay.
I've been to too many meetings
All right, thank you.
to make it quick.
And I'll turn and go back to Commissioner Schrader. Go ahead.
Well, I think all of us yesterday visited Camp Whitcomb,
Right.
okay, which was fantastic, at the Military Museum, which is an absolutely wonderful museum. I was here a number of years ago when they just started out the process, and it has come a long way. Not only do they have the whole history of the Oregon Guard in our county, they really have some gorgeous exhibits, including military art, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. And I think it's really important we continue to build that relationship with the Guard. They're a big economic multiplier for us here. And they also have space for us to have meetings if we ever want to go there. So,
Yes.
and that's about all I have for today. So, all right.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, just briefly, I'll have more on Thursday, but on a new wave of emails I've been seeing, Gary, and I just want to say it publicly. I think there's a misunderstanding with a number of people that are concerned about the PG Tonquin facility going, the height of the poles and everything that we knew that. I think that there was somehow an inference that we did not do our part or whatnot. And I know that between the legal challenges that the neighborhood group put forward, plus the ruling by the land use aspect, and also with the Public Utility Commission, that was out of our control, and we are, mandated to honor an application regardless who submits it. But I don't know if there's an opportunity or a strategy to address those emails and that understanding, but it seems to me there's some pretty strong comments in there that I don't necessarily believe that we were somehow dropped the ball or whatnot on this matter. So I know that the emotions are really high because now apparently they're putting the polls up. But I'm hoping that we can do something to get the record straight.
If I may, yes. So first, staff is preparing for you some bullet talking points for you for this Thursday, and as soon as we get them, we'll send them to you. There's some misinformation out there we want to correct, and of course, we'll respond to every email with the factual information on what's going on. You were not dishonest. You did not pull a fast one on the public at all. You followed the exact process as you're required to follow, and really, this was not your decision. It was outside your control with the hearings officer and so forth. But we'll bring all that back to you, and then we'll make sure the public gets responses to their messages.
Yeah, and I if there's any background that suggests that that we sold out, I would like to understand what that consideration was, because I'm not aware of any such thing.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
All right, is that all? Commissioner West.
I'll be brief because meetings also to get to. Thank you, Commissioner Savas, for bringing that forward. I agree. This board at that time had a lot of empathy and concern around what was going on, and really, I believe, had the idea of how do we protect our constituents. We were mostly concerned about our residents in this process, and we wanted to also make sure that we were obeying the law and statute and making sure that we were operating in a way that tried to do both. So I am also confused by some of that communication and would like the record to be set straight. And I am glad that you brought that up, Commissioner Savas. I'm going to save the rest of my comments for later this week. There'll be other opportunities, as I know we have a busy day and other things to get to. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Thank you. Just a couple quick comments. I want to follow up on Commissioner Schrader, who's really done a lot for the military over the years. I know Sheriff, she was always front and center on one of the issues. So, and I wanted to also, and I know Paul's been really actively involved as well on the Veterans Village. So thanks to both of you. And when we did the visit there, I wanted to also recognize both General Reese was just an amazing leader down there that really led the charge on a big fundraising effort to help support that. I know another individual named Rick Carl Miller from Avamere was huge on helping support that. I know you know Amy and how she's done a tremendous, and it was really nice to kind of see that facility come together. Kathleen Sliger is the museum director now. They're having a spring salute Saturday, March 7th. And I know that's a little ways out there. We're going to kind of continue to remind folks to join them out there. And I believe their operation days were Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, correct? I strongly encourage people to go visit it. It actually is absolutely amazing. So, and one more thing on the military front, they have a wall in there. It's a honor wall that they have, and it's called the Hall of Valor. And I actually know a Vietnam veteran that's in our county that's was recently given the Congressional Gold Medal. And he was one of these young guys that's like 18 that gets deployed to Vietnam. And he was on the Dust-Off, which was a air unit, helicopters that would evacuate injured soldiers. And so it was really nice. Congressionally, they're recognizing all of those individuals that worked on Dust-Off, literally saved thousands of people. And I know this individual is actually Gary Hagan. He lives in Oregon City here. He was given the Silver Star. His story was they were in a helicopter, had a full of injured soldiers, were shot down. They were surrounded all night long and were being shot at, and they couldn't get anybody in there till the following day, and literally kept all those injured soldiers alive. Plus, he fought off the enemy at that time. And so part of the discussion I had yesterday is making sure we don't miss those heroic stories. And they have a form there at the museum that you can fill out so that can be added. And just so much value hearing these different soldiers that risked it all for us today. So thank you all for working to help support our veterans. We have a lot going on today. We're going to come back here. So this concludes our administrator issues and updates. And I want to thank you for joining us, and my apologies again for being late. We'll be back here at 1:30. Welcome back, everyone, to this afternoon session of the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners, January 27, 2026. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please call the roll for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Roll call. Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Helm.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Chair Roberts.
Here. And thank you, Gary. You want to introduce our first policy session for the
Yes,
day?
thank you, Chair. First session today is the Clackamas County Public Safety Levy Rate discussion and potential decision. Presenting is the Sheriff's Office team, and I will support. With us is Sheriff Angela Brandenburg, or Sheriff Lee Eby, Sheriff's Office Finance Manager Patrick Williams. Sheriff Brandenburg will kick it off. Go ahead, please, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff Brandenburg, Clackamas County Sheriff, Chair Roberts, and Commissioners. The Sheriff's Office is here today to continue discussion and possibly a decision by the board regarding the levy rate for the Clackamas County Public Safety Levy. As you know, it will expire the current 5-year levy will expire December 31st, 2026. So to prepare for the vote to replace the expiring levy at the end of the year, we would like to continue our discussions to assess levy rate options and identify which service priorities should be included. The information presented is intended to inform the board and support a thoughtful decision-making process regarding what to place before the voters on the ballot. The background of the public safety levy, it was first approved by voters in 2026, again in 2011, 2016, 2021, representing 20 years of public support. And we appreciate the public support. The levy provides vital services for us to help keep the county safe, and we appreciate that. I will turn it over to County Administrator Schmidt to talk about the levy rate options.
Thank you, Sheriff. On page 2 of your staff report are the options. I would like to just quickly read them for you and the public of what we're presenting to you for your consideration. Option 1 is to maintain the current levy rate of 0.3688 cents per $1,000 assessed home value. This option would maintain the existing tax rate for the current Sheriff's Office levy. This would require a levy-funded sworn personnel reduction of approximately 37% from 92 deputies to 58 deputies. This current levy would cost the average homeowner $131.86 a year, based on the median assessed value of $358,313. Option 2 is for 0.534 cents per $1,000 assessed home value. Option 2 maintains the existing Sheriff's Office levy services. However, it is an increase of 0.166 cents from the current levy. This would cost the average homeowner an additional $59.48 a year. Option 3 is for 0.608 cents per $1,000 assessed home value. Option 3 maintains the existing Sheriff's Office levy services and adds an additional specialized crime reduction team. This option is an increase of 0.24 cents, costing the average homeowner an additional $86 a year. Option 4 is 0.681 cents per $1,000 assessed home value. Option 4 maintains the existing Sheriff's Office levy services, funds the additional specialized crime reduction team, and provides funding to replace the Sheriff's aging fleet of patrol vehicles across the entire agency. This option is an increase of 0.313 cents and would cost the average homeowner an additional $112.16 a year. So those are the options. They're in your packet, of course. Staff had sent you last week a chart that Chair Roberts suggested and was very, very helpful, I hope, to you, that showed the cost of not only the average home, but also the home that costs $500,000 and a home that costs $800,000. So that was in your email, and I think Andrew will very quickly find it to post on your screen to see as well. I also, if I may quickly talk about the timelines, this is in your staff report as well. If you choose to go to the May 2026 ballot, your absolute deadline for making a decision and filing the appropriate paperwork with the county clerk's office is February 27th, 2026. So you don't have to make a decision today. I'm the one who recommended a decision today, so staff will, if you decide today, staff will come back to you at a policy session to review the ballot language. You are not approving ballot language today. You are simply giving direction which option you'd like staff to pursue. Then we come back to you at an additional policy session to review the ballot language. All of that has to be done by February 27th if you go to the May ballot, because you are all going to the National Association of Counties Conference the last week of February. Your deadline is February 19th. So that's 3 more weeks of board business. However, you have your retreat next week. So unless you call a special meeting next week, this really would not go till the week of February 10th. All to say is you do have time. If you choose today's not the day, but you're running out of time. You'd have the next 3 weeks to make a final decision. But again, if you are ready to decide today, we would still come back to you at a policy session in the next 3 weeks to review ballot language. I hope that made sense. With that, did I miss anything, Sheriff?
I think you got it.
Okay, so with that, we're now open to your questions on anything about this proposed levy renewal. Thank you.
All right. Before we open it up, any other comments from the sheriff's office? Okay.
Nope, waiting for
All
questions.
right. Commissioner Savas has his light on. Go
I
ahead.
don't want to disappoint. Gary, could you have staff give me a printed copy of that, maybe for each of us while we're chatting?
Yes.
So I listened very intently, And my first observation is, I'll just tell you that, I'll back up. I did thank you for what you all provided me last week, spreadsheet and some of the fleet vehicle information and so forth. And I worked Saturday and Sunday on this, okay, with what I had. I needed more, but I'll just tell you, I had what I had. And I found a number of things that I either had no answer for, couldn't find, or I found some numbers that just didn't match. And they were not by a little, but by a lot, okay, especially in the fleet side. So I was really hoping that I could sit down with your fleet staff, and I understand that he's ill, so I hope he gets better soon. You know, I can't imagine how terrible that is. So I'm sympathetic to that, but unfortunately, the timing is not very opportune. That said, I also appreciate as part of that was getting the Excel. I asked for the Excel piece of it, and what I could not find, I tried to explain this to the chair yesterday, the baseline numbers of the levy, the Excel spreadsheet for the levy, of the baseline numbers like personnel and all those, when I click on that Excel cell, when I click on the cell, I would like to see the formula that, well, personnel, how that was mathematically or formulaically derived. And there's nothing there other than the number being plugged in. And that went for almost everything on the expense side, okay? So I'm somewhat at a loss if I cannot figure out how those numbers were derived. It seems to me that that is something that is like essential to make sure we get everything right. So that being said, what I would like to say that in the presentation, it talks about a reduction of deputies, and I believe that's 34 deputies reduction, is that right? The proposal of option one?
Is that correct?
Okay. So you all provided me with a rough number that a fully loaded deputy is $259,000 a year. So if I take that 259 and multiply it times 34, 32, whatever, I get almost $9 million. So the delta between option one and option two is about 7 million, not 9 million. So that number's off, okay, if I use that rough number, right? But of course, I assume that there's positions that are more expensive than 259,000 per year, and possibly positions that maybe are a little bit less than $259,000 a year. But not being able to have the formula built in the cell to see it and to make sure and see what the calculations are, and even knowing what the composition of the 92 deputies or the reduction of that by 34, what that looks like. So I want to have confidence in the numbers. So I appreciate that there is an effort to adjust the existing levy option to make sure that we all strive to ask for resources that will meet the promise of the levy, right? So I appreciate that lift. I just don't think it's enough, and let alone the fleet side. I think the fleet side is way off, and I know that fleet is partly built in for the levy positions. So that means, in this case, if there's 92 deputies, I would assume that 92 sworn, that maybe all 92 have a vehicle. Is that about right, Sheriff?
A little less than that, I think. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, but if fleet's off, this number's off, right? So I just want to get it right, and I think we got a responsibility. I mean, I had my own business since I was a little kid, basically. I would say that one of my dad's strong points was he told me, a deal's a deal, a shake is a shake, and when you make a deal with someone and you honor that, and you fall on the sword to honor that, or you pay them back and make it right, right? So I was raised on the premise that in my business that if I sold a product or a service, whatever it may be, I wanted to make sure that for the revenue they paid me, I could deliver the service. And I don't think that's really anything different here, fundamentally, other than the problem here with the levy, the existing levy at the existing rate, is that they are paying for a service and a promise, but we don't have enough resources to actually deliver it, right? and we know, I already shared with you the numbers as the years progress on those numbers getting off. So that's why I have a vested interest on behalf of everyone in the county to make sure that we can honor the promise and deliver the services, and we can't do that without enough resources. So I think that we have a mutual interest, right? The board, the staff, CCSO, and trying to make sure that we have all the resources we need to honor the promises we have made to the people that are paying the bill, that being the citizens. That is my primary thing here. That's what I don't think math is math, so it's not a personality issue. It should not be an issue of opinion. We have actuals to know what things are, and a lot of the numbers I'm using are based on actuals, and I want to make sure we kind of correlate that. So my hope is we have a more constructive dialogue, but I sit here today not knowing or having a strong intuition sense that these numbers are not adequate to meet the promise. But I haven't seen the actual language of the levy. I know we're basing this off the existing levy language with some adds. So, I would be nice to know to actually see that language, because I think that's important, because those are the components of the promise. Chair, I yield back.
Commissioner Howell.
Yeah, can you give me a little more clarity on and Andrew, if you can bring back up the slide, the crimes reduction team? It's the first I'm kind of hearing about it. And I thought we already had a special crimes reduction team. I know there's a special retail crimes. Is this a completely different one?
Correct. It would be a full-time team, a new team.
To anything specific?
To neighborhood livability crimes affecting neighborhoods and businesses. We have something similar in which we work in conjunction with county council and the DA's office and code enforcement. That is all done as we call as a collateral duty. So deputies have their duties as patrol deputies, and then either working on overtime, often on overtime, doing this neighborhood livability team. This would be a complete team that was dedicated, funded by the levy. So that would be their sole mission, 7 days a week, to respond to neighborhood livability issues. And based off of that team that we have now, the work group that we have now, it's very successful, but we're challenged with funding it through overtime. And I believe that we could take a lot of calls off of patrol so that they could, respond to emergencies and deal with neighborhood issues affecting, your house, neighbor's house, businesses. It's a dedicated team that would be, I think, really well spent to deal with neighborhood issues, chronic issues, that we could ensure that patrol freed up their time to do the things that patrol needs to do.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that Chair, we'd like to respond to, I think, Commissioner Savas' some of his
okay.
questions and concerns.
Sure.
And I agree with you. I think we all are on the same track, making sure that we have the formula that's correct, that we're delivering the services that were promised. And so I think Patrick may have some answers for you for some of your concerns about the numbers.
Thank you, Sheriff. Patrick Williams, Finance Manager for the Sheriff's Office, Chair Roberts and the board. So Commissioner Savas, our apologies for not having that first number as a calculation, but the description of how we came up with that number is in the assumptions line. And it was based on current year's budgeted costs and then applying the factors that we apply year over year to go for the final 5 years of the levy. So it's not pulled out of thin air. And it wasn't really something that we could have, but not really elegantly create it with a formula, but it was based on the assumptions of this year's budgeted personnel costs, applying the factors that we've noted, COLAs, merits, things like that, and extrapolating that to next year. That's where it starts. So that's where that number is based off of.
Well, thank you, Patrick. So did I hear you say, it's for clarification, that what's embedded in, or what you plugged in there is based on the actuals essentially, and that going forward, it'll be formulaic?
It's based on the APOS report from this year. which is the document that we base our personnel budget on annually.
Okay, the chair brought up yesterday add to pays, right?
Yeah.
And I don't pretend to know that, that's not my, but
I barely know
my
it. I'm
response
learning
back.
myself, Commissioner Sapp. So.
My response back to the chair was, if we use actuals, because we paid for that over the years, right? We were able to see in the cell the breakdown of all those components that make up personnel. We could see the add to pays, but because we can't see it, I'm blind, right? I'm flying blind. But I assume someone can see it. And the only, thank you.
So can I respond to that? And thank you for the insight. It's been very challenging for us to calculate the add to pays. In fact, we were just able to do it about a month ago. Every individual CCSO employee is different, right? Right now there isn't an existing query or report, although we're working with TS and the Department of Finance to create one to pull that out of PeopleSoft HR, okay? Each individual employee has different incentives that they can earn, right? So we don't use, the county's standard budgeting methodology for personnel is using the APOS reports. We've built in the 6.5% is higher than what the county, and that's what our factor is annually, an annual increase. We built that in estimating what the add to pays would be. Usually the standard increase is 3%, right? So we increase that to 6.5%, projecting that will cover add to pays, based on a lot of different factors, which actuals are part of those. So, okay.
Well, I know we're talking fine. I appreciate the numbers, Patrick, and I really appreciate your cooperation and enlightening me. I'll just tell you that, and I think I'll just nail this point down with saying this, that in my business, I built the formula and I used actuals to test it to make sure it was right, and it went back and forth. And it sounds like what we're doing here is we're using actuals to try and build it, but we don't have the formula quite yet, formulaically, to get where we ought to be.
We don't, but we're getting a lot closer. Yeah.
Right, and I acknowledge that you're getting closer. I recognize that. Thank you.
And then secondly, Andrew, I sent you if you can share that. We don't use the average patrol deputy cost as a budgeting tool because a lot of the costs within that patrol deputy include materials and services. We want to include that to demonstrate that it costs us money to uniform a deputy, to maintain his vehicle, to his portion of the CCOM bill, his portion of the C800 bill. Many different factors. So just using that as a number to multiply to come up with a personnel expense number, we've created this primarily just to it's more of a demonstration tool, right? We don't budget to this, but it's more, based on all of our expenses, this is how we spread it out and kind of demonstrate what the cost is per deputy. But we don't use that as a budgeting tool to calculate, what the personnel costs are for a deputy.
Yeah, and I'm just struggling to find anything, right, to see it and understand it.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Before I turn to,
I'd like to say something, and with the assurance that we worked closely with county finance for these numbers. And so just as an assurance for you, for the public, that we didn't do this on our own. So I was informed with county finance, with the treasurer's office, with the assessor's office, to get this as close as possible so that we have the resources we need to deliver the services that we're promising here. So.
Yeah.
all right. For the public's knowledge, can you talk about what add to pay is and what APOS is, just so they know? And then right after that, I'm going to turn to Martha.
Sure. The add to pays are incentive pays that are embedded in the current labor agreement we have with the POA. There's dozens of them. And a CCSO staff member earns these incentives based on a variety of factors, including their education level, their experience, the certifications that they have, assignments. I'm just scratching the surface, but it's a lot. Yeah, and it's a real challenge. Like I said, each individual staff member have earned different incentives, and like I said, there is not currently a query or report to pull that. We're getting close, working closely with finance and TS to get that, and to get more accurate numbers. But it's a significant amount of money annually. Yeah.
Commissioner Schrader.
So what I'm understanding from what you just said, this is the average cost, but because you have other areas with depending on who the officer is and what their add-ons are, that's what the discrepancy then. When we say average, depending on where they are in the system, what they're doing, is that?
Yeah, the personnel expense
Yeah.
section that's where that add to pay is gonna, or the incentive pay, add to pays are gonna impact the cost of the deputy, just on
Okay.
that line, yeah.
Right, well, that helps, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sure. Yes, go
So,
ahead.
on the slide, I just want to make sure I'm seeing and understanding. So are those totally two different tables, or is the title at the top where it says fiscal year 25, 26 apply to everything? Does average step one apply downward? I don't think so. But are those two separate tables unrelated to each other?
The two horizontal tables? Yeah, so the first section up is the personnel expenditures, right? And that's the budgeted average is the first column, which is the 209,348. There's the average step one, which is the beginning step, that's the second column, which is 174,049. And then the average step seven, which is the highest, is 224,712. These don't likely include the full cost of the incentive pays for these deputies, though, in this personnel line.
So going down, so the other table is not associated with the steps?
No, those are just the costs, or yeah, that's the
I was
cost
trying to
split
get
out by 607,
I was
yes.
just trying to get clarification. But the fiscal year, the cost pool numbers that you have in the second table
Yes.
applies to what fiscal years?
I believe 25, 26. I'm relatively certain, but I can confirm that for you. Yeah, I don't know. If it was 24, 25, I suspect the person who created this sheet would have noted that, so,
Okay.
yeah.
The reason I ask that is because if it was 24, 25, that would be based on actuals.
Right.
If it was 25, 26, that's based
The
on
budget,
a
yes.
formula that's not yet
Yeah.
fine-tuned.
It would be based on the budgeted expenses for that year, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Anything else, Paul?
You know, and let me amend that, sorry. It would be based on what our proposed budget was at the time. The amended budget was, especially for materials and services, was different than what we had proposed. So if you look at the amended budget for this section, it's not gonna really align to it because of changes from our proposed budget to our amended budget.
I think what's also really important, because I think the general public oftentimes would look at this and go, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. But I think you really have to look at the numbers and start to try and understand them. And I think that, for example, liability insurance, this is a high-risk occupation with lots of liability. You can see how that's $3,000 a person. I also think that, the fuel for your organization is huge across the board. And as you can see that, so it fluctuates that fuel cost. And the CCOM user, so for folks, that's the 911 center that everybody has to pay into to support. And I think the other huge thing, which I'm really pleased that this was included in the last levy, is body cameras. And I think it provides great transparency for the public, holds everybody accountable, and I think it's worth every dime. So when I look at all of those things, it just starts to add up. Kind of like when you're doing your home budget, it's like, oh my gosh, how much is electricity? It does add up, and and what also I think is, actually I think it's lower than what I would anticipate, is the training cost, because training is really important as well to make sure we're doing the best across there. A couple things I wanted to just point out, excuse me, and we've been having lots of conversations about this and which one do you pick? And I wanted to go back, and staff kind of pulled some data for us, and just to kind of, and I think my colleagues have seen this, but so measure 365 for Happy Valley, which was a community center, that had failed this November election. What did pass, I will say, is Lake Oswego School District passed by really high, like 70% plus. The Westland School District barely passed, and that was actually a huge $190 million bond for safety, athletic facilities, infrastructures. And the Measure 3630 Oregon Trail School District, it failed. And then also Measure 3631 Sandy Fire, which had included, and Diana, you had brought this up, just to clarify, it was dissolving Sandy Fire and annexing to Clackamas Fire. But it also sounds like it had a cost to it as well, and that actually did fail. So trying to give you the pulse of kind of what happened this last election. And we've just had a lot of robust conversations. I think meeting with H3S and hearing about our fastest growing homeless population is seniors. They're on the edge. As I think I'd mentioned, I talked to a senior that's on Social Security. Their Medicare went up, and while they received that COLA, it was basically a wash. So I think for those that are homeowners that are trying to stay in their house, I just think it's a tough economic time. But I also believe that public safety is critically important for this county, and to you and the other members of the Sheriff's Office, of frontline employees, those in the jail, hearing that we're the safest in the Tri-County, and we're up there in the top for the state means that we are doing a good job. And I think Ben and I've talked, we don't want to go backwards, right? So as, and I think that is a little bit telling. When I revisited some of the polling, right? Under option 1, I thought this was interesting. It's, in some of the polling, it slightly edges out the no vote. I'll put that in quotes, slightly. And the intensity of the opinion leans negative. And that was the option 1, where they would lose people. And Lee, we've talked about this. You very likely could have to close jail beds, which is forced releases, an impact on public safety overall. So I do believe the public wants to continue on the path we're on. I think that challenging to add new staff. I just think that right now that's a challenging issue. We've also had conversations with Gary and some experts in the field of bonds and districts, some of the other things we've looked at on vehicles. And so I kind of personally have a hard time asking for a ton more vehicles on top of, I agree for the public safety levy, when we're adding those positions, with those should come the cost of a patrol car and that kind of stuff. But adding to kind of backfill those others, I honestly have a little trouble with. So, so I think just, I guess where I'm kind of leaning right now, and again, want to hear from my colleagues, kind of leaning towards that number 2 option. We're gonna hold the staff. We're not gonna have to cut staff. We might have some vacancies, and I think we're gonna talk about that some more, just to kind of balance. I guess before I wanted to reach out to open up to my colleagues. Did you? Before I do, though, did you have any kind of thoughts or comments you want to add? I know we've been talking a lot about this, either one of you.
As far as which option?
Yeah.
Well, I think.
What you're leaning towards.
Yeah, I mean, I think option 2, if we don't pass what we have, I think that law enforcement, public safety in Clackamas County will not look the same. These are positions that we definitely need. And, I know that you all get to choose which option here, and you have to wrestle with what can the county afford, and what can you not afford. And also, what your constituents perhaps want. And so to me, option 2 gets us to where we're not losing staff. We're also maintaining the body-worn camera program, which is super important, I think, for the risks for the county. Not only that, but the law enforcement officers don't want to work without them. To proving, solving crime and cases and doing it without having to spend a lot of staff time, because body cameras speak for themselves, and we avoid a lot of trials. So I talk to judges and how they appreciate that. So that is one of the main things that, for sure, that I believe the public wants and deserves to have. We came and talked with you about the 10-year contract and how expensive that is, and it's only gonna, probably hopefully get better by the time our 10-year contract is done. But the levy and the voters hopefully will continue that program. It's very, very important. You all get to decide what option to go with here, and I appreciate your empathy for folks who, it's tough economic times right now. I have folks who talk with me as well, who struggle. They support public safety, but things are tight, and I don't see anything on the horizon that is going to give us some relief. So you have a tough job in front of you, commissioners.
Yeah, I had one more question for Lee, and I think all of us can recognize when we go to the grocery store, right? I'm just like looking at a small package of meat or something, and it has gone up. And Lee, it's your responsibility to provide food services at that jail, and kind of, I guess, can you talk about, have you seen the increase for yourself as well as food services, and then kind of forecasting for this levy, which would include making sure we have adequate food, which is, I know, a challenge.
So we have seen a dramatic increase over the past couple of years, especially last year, as inflationary pressures have hit food. We are no different. We obviously look to buy in bulk and try to do a lot of stuff to save money, which we do. However, our numbers, which five or more years ago, we were under $1. Now we're about $1.60. Now, as time has gone on, and it keeps pushing per meal. Well, the normal person goes, that's a pretty good deal, and I would agree. If that's what all of our meals cost, that would be awesome. But the reality is that we have to do a lot to get that. And as we looking forward, we don't obviously have a crystal ball to know what the economy is going to do in the next 2 years or 3 years, but we're expecting greater pressures, specifically from inflation on food, and that just pressures us as we custody and care of those in the facility. And that also includes, we see that across the board with our medical care, our food, all the care that we have to give those who are in custody. And so it's just greater pressure, and it will continue in the next few years.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think a lot of times the materials and services, which also are really shocking a lot of times, that I was shocked myself, is I think you're one of the biggest water users for the entire city of Oregon City. So both your water and electricity are costs that, again, I think are out of your control. And so, again, I think trying to make sure we're forecasting enough to get us through this next levy, is really critically important, which is also hard, I guess I would say. So I think Commissioner West is up there.
Thank you, Chair. I do think Oregon is significantly hit harder than much of the country. We have seen a number of costs actually go down, but it doesn't necessarily translate to Oregon. We still have some of the highest gasoline and transportation costs, even though some places around the nation now are seeing $2.50 a gallon, $2 a gallon. I know our sheriff's department would probably love to see those same gas prices. We would love that. And we've seen airfare decrease. Actually, eggs are finally down significantly. So some of those essential proteins that are affordable and accessible for most cultures, such as eggs, has gone down. But we have also seen housing costs be persistently high, often due to land use policy and urban growth boundaries and the things that we are always wrestling with in Oregon through those types of policies. We've seen businesses flee. We have seen a lot of other internal pressures that have exacerbated these expenses. So people in Oregon are feeling that specifically. And we also have some really big political realities around this that are going to be on now potentially the May ballot. There's a new bill, as we all know, to take these transportation increased costs, which has given many Oregonians heartburn, and put them on the May ballot. So they're still continuing to monkey around, manipulate, and play with what the intent of the petitioners were. And these referendums have always been in November, but nobody wants to be on a general election ballot along with those tax increases. Nobody does, it turns out, even though they have brought us to this situation. This politically gives me pause and great concern about how we strategize, because generally, I wouldn't have a lot of anxiety about going back to the Clackamas County voters that continue to prioritize public safety, because it is a core value system of everyone in this room and of our neighbors. But to be on the ballot along that with that toxic transportation tax increase that they may be referring in May is super concerning to me. I don't know if we've thought about that. It does dictate or influence, like, if it doesn't pass, how we would go forward again in November. Many non-affiliated voters, which is a significant block of Clackamas County voters, don't generally participate or nearly at the same rate in a May primary election. We're politically a little different. Most of the voters are registered Democrats in Clackamas County by a few points. Republicans are right below that, and then a giant chunk, almost a third, if you're going to break it out roughly, are non-affiliated voters. So then we really need their voices to not be disenfranchised in this process either. And so I just feel like we're, not just us, but school districts, special districts, cities, counties, who need to, like, not necessarily ask for more, but just the status quo to maintain services that to be expected through levies and these different mechanisms, is now precarious because of this political hot potato that is bouncing around currently regarding the transportation tax. So that concerns me. That political calculus and strategy concerns me. The appetite isn't easy to kind of put our finger on based on the polling and what you've read there, Chair. So that has me, how do we handle the political realities around that as we grapple with the decision? I would like to know if the board is also comfortable, as we get the questions finalized and answered that Commissioner Savas has rightfully brought forward as he spent the time to dig into the numbers, to make sure that we're getting as close and alleviating those questions. Can we do both? Can we chew gum and move forward at the same time? Can we get answers to Commissioner Savas' question while creating a plan to move forward the levy simultaneously? I think we can. And I don't know, I'll leave that open for discussion. I mean, I have some ideas. Like, if our ultimate goal is we would all be super happy with 2 to deal with the cost and to get there and to move forward and properly funding the levy. Well, if we don't get 2 in May because of the political realities, are we going to have to be okay with 1? Which means we're taking a significant cut to law enforcement. We got to readjust everything, and not in the way that we want to or what our community would expect. Or we go a little higher for 3 and ask for a little bit more, clench down and grit, or hope to God that voters are feeling generous for public safety in Clackamas County. If they say no, then we go to 2 in November. Like, how do we play with that as we move this forward? I think is, as much as the numbers are an important question, so are the political realities in which we're facing. As I think there's a consensus, I'm pretty sure, that we want to move forward to figuring out how to get this levy moving forward, but we aren't really also talking about the political realities with it being on the May ballot.
And I missed Martha, so I want to come back to her, so I apologize. Martha, go ahead, and then.
That's okay. As I was looking at this, in all the years I've been here, public safety has always been extremely important and supported. Okay. I don't recall if you recall, when did we ever lose a public levy, this public levy?
It was,
What?
yeah. It had failed before I took office.
Okay.
And so that's why we were, at that time, closing jail beds, 90 overtime shifts a week. I mean, it was insane. And it a huge force releases were off the charts. And so,
I remember that because there were issues with Sealander, one of our judges over that. They
Right.
were upset about that.
yeah, Mr. Sealander.
Yeah, yeah, and but rather than going back to that history, after you took over, did you have any losses of this levy? Do you recall?
Yeah, no, since we did that, and I think it's a great topic to kind of bring up at this point. I think I might just mention it is just that, and I'm talking to my colleagues here, is just that because I've been in the position where I'm going to tons of community groups, doing everything I possibly can to get the message out, to really educate people. Because if they just saw this number at 279, anybody would want to croak at the cost. But when you sat down and explained to them what those costs are and why the dispatch center is so expensive, why is fuel, all those same things that people understand. And they also understand that if you have to close jail beds, what does that mean? So I can just say, being the former sheriff, it's kind of a daunting task to get around this huge county. And as we move forward, I believe it's incumbent upon all of us up here to kind of help carry that message and education forward, no matter what option we pick, because it is a big lift and people do want to hear about public safety. I think if Angie could present a fact sheet to us as we're meeting with different groups, whether it's our next State of the County address or whatever it is, I think we owe it to really spend some time talking about it and trying to educate people that, you know, here's what happened if it passes, here's what if it doesn't pass, and here's the cost.
And,
So,
and
go
to,
ahead,
and
Mark.
to my point, though, what I was wondering was, you know, I think that the current and past history has indicated that you've been able to do this. Might you want to try 3 in May, and then if that doesn't work, drop back to 2 in November? And what would be the pros and cons to that? Because I'm just thinking that, from what you've said, adding a crime reduction team would be a huge, huge deal and would more than likely reduce overtime. Is that correct? Or
That's correct, Commissioner. That would also, you get calls from your constituents about issues across the county, public safety issues that you pass on. And I have my patrol team. So this is a team that would be a resource 7 days a week that could deal with issues. And we all know in our neighborhoods, we have houses and we have other businesses, things that are issues, and it takes a lot of resources and time. Oftentimes that's in addition to our patrol deputies, normal 911 calls and responding to service. So this is a dedicated team that would be very helpful in dealing with issues. And I believe would be very positively viewed by your constituents who call and that call me with issues in their neighborhood. It's been a very successful program. I know Commissioner Helm, we catch up to speed on the work we've done with the neighborhood livability team and the work across our county departments to, including county council, where we would potentially take over people's properties because the issues that they have, chronic nuisance issues, or remedied, and that's hopefully, we don't want to take over folks' property, but we have tools in our toolbox, we just need the time to do that. And we do spend overtime, or we have, and we've been working on curbing our overtime, and so there is a need for this team if that were something you wanted to put forward on the ballot.
So that would be, I'm just saying that could be one pathway forward to do 3 now. If it doesn't pass, then do 2 in November. But of course, I want to be cognizant of what my colleague, but Ben has talked about, and that is, given all the other tax measures and, well, transportation and all that, again, in my experience, being here, usually if it's public safety, and if you do a good job communicating to the public, it passes. So, and I'm just going to throw that out there. Obviously, I think at this point, it's between 2 and 3. So I think whatever someone wants to make a,
Well, I think Paul
Move
had a
forward.
comment.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I am inclined to talk about the concepts of the three options as opposed to the specific numbers, okay? The cents per thousand until I have a better, at least for me, Paul wants to have more comfort with the numbers and have the opportunity to meet with not finance, but the fleet folks to get those numbers and calculate it in a little bit better. We spent last week on this topic a lot of time talking about the reasons why we didn't want to put it on November. And the reasons why was because, one of the reasons why was because we didn't want to have it the same time as the transportation package.
Muddied with
right?
that, with that
And
issue, yeah.
right now, it looks as though that the legislature, I'm looking at my Commissioner Wes Smith-Jones down there.
Inside joke.
Side joke, folks. Now I'm concerned that if they're going to move it to May, and it looks like it's going to be May, then does that change our rationale? So that's one thing I want to throw out there. So number one, conceptually, what's in the package, I think I can get comfort around which one we select. I'm just not there on the number, okay? Is 53 cents, for example, for option 2 the right number? My guess is it might be a penny or two higher per thousand. Okay, I don't know until we get that number sorted out. So that said, I do want to ask Patrick, the question. I'm looking at option 2, because that seems to be what there's a lot of discussion on. I'm looking at the repair and maintenance line for fiscal year 27-28. And if we're looking at the same line, it's about 1.366.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
My question is how much, what's all in there? Repair and maintenance, what exactly? Roughly, not exactly, but roughly.
Just the general, mechanical maintenance, body shop maintenance, repairs, mechanical repairs, body shop repairs, oil changes, tires.
So that's fleet specific, or is it in relation to any other thing that's non-fleet?
It's fleet specific.
It's fleet specific?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for that. So I know that the numbers that I've got that staff provided me for the fleet amounts for all funds, not just levy, but all funds, ranged in the last 5 years, 4 years or so, between about 1.7 million up to almost 3 million a year just for the maintenance, right? And knowing that, the levy fleet is a little bit less than half the overall fleet for patrol, let's just say.
Yeah.
As far as being vehicle heavy.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if that's actually a realistic number to be plugging in. If the trend is getting more towards that fiscal year 24-25, which is an actual, right? It's the only actual we've got, the most recent actual. It's $3 million. So if we roughly subtract that or divide that by half, it's 1.5 million, and you got baked in there 1.3.
Yeah, the levy, we count it as for our factors when we're allocating expenditures and doing overall budgets and things. The split is between the general fund, the levy, and the ELED, right? I believe we count the levy as actually 25%, 25 to 30%. So that's how that number was generated.
Okay, and I remember the 25% number, but I was led to believe, or led to understand that 25% was overall everything, staffing and all those things, whereas fleet was not, it was a different number for fleet.
Because that's based on vehicle assignment. So
25%?
The allocation, yeah, I think and I don't, my apologies, I don't have that exact number handy, but as part of the levy, for instance, jail deputies don't need vehicles like patrol, and that a large a composition of the levy staff are jail deputies. So, so not all of the levy staff have assigned vehicles either.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. All right. Well, Chair, I just wrap up my current comments to say that I like the dialogue on go back to the dialogue we had last week on May, November, because of the transportation package timing shifting now as one item. And the second one that I want to just tell you all is that if there's flexibility in us trying to adjust whatever that millage rate is to recalibrate for the financials, then, we've got that. I just want to just let you know that I think that's a number that might need to go up a little bit, a penny or two. I don't know what it's going to be, right?
All right. Commissioner West?
I think Commissioner Helm was next, I think.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I can wait.
Thank you.
Commissioner Helm.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't
That's
see
all
which
right.
one went on first.
Okay. Question, I'm going back to the slide with the average cost for a patrol deputy. And Chair Roberts yesterday was kind enough to explain to me what the add to pays were conceptually, and that they are all over the board, right? Are you able to give each position an add to pay average based on previous history? Is that a number you could come up with over the course of, obviously not right this moment, but just as one of those numbers to bring to us? Obviously, you have the numbers, and if you have these different positions that pay different amounts or charge different amounts, there's got to be a way to plug a number in beside that, I would think, right? Now, does this slide of $279,948, $280,000 per deputy, does that include add to pays?
So the top column with the wages, it does not include add to pays.
Okay.
Okay.
So this could be theoretically 30% higher, or roughly, do you know how much higher add to pays add to anybody's salary?
I think the number was
8%?
8%.
8%. Okay, so you
based
do
on the
have a rough,
analysis
okay,
that we
a
did.
rough estimate. So add 8% to the $280,000 per deputy. Okay, that's one question. And then I am looking forward to,
But
I know
you'd
you're.
have to take out the materials and services. It wouldn't be 8% of the 279, it would be 8% of this.
Of the one at the
salary,
top,
the
right,
wage,
okay,
yeah.
okay. So then, yeah, and then my next question, or just comment, is I'm looking forward to seeing, I know you're gathering numbers still, and you're trying to pin them down. I think those are gonna be really helpful with us going forward. But I am very inclined, just from my point of view, and here's another thing too, putting it on the May ballot might be a good thing. So the people say, hell no, I don't want this, but yeah, I'm okay with this, right? This is something I believe in. This is something I don't. I think giving them maybe that choice is not necessarily a bad thing. I realize there's a political risk to it, but I think if I had both in front of me, I would be inclined to say, yeah, this one, no, but this one, yes, this is something that truly is one of my values. So I don't think I would necessarily say that, but I would say putting option number three on the May ballot and then scaling back if we had to might be the way to go. And I'd like to look into, we talked about different options for the fleet and whether we can go out for a capital or a bond or something with that. However, we talked about that before, but it just kind of treat it separately entirely, right? So anyway, that's where I'm leaning. I just need more numbers, more numbers. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, I missed you there.
That's all right. I'll just lean over and punch you here in a minute.
West.
Thank you, Chair. On option 3, Sheriff, you were explaining with those additional positions. Now, we're already talking about pretty significant increase over current rates with 2, 3, or 4. Those are substantial increases. With those additional positions, would those be positions that would help deal with things like code enforcement that we frequently have a lack of resources? Would they be the same type of group that would be responding or maybe helping out theft at the town center mall? Would it be we have somebody that has a concerning or unruly neighbor or property that has concerns that you need to, so I wonder if you could fine tune it a little bit.
Yeah, I think a mixture of what you're talking about, but I would like to be careful about the code enforcement part.
Okay.
Because that, for me, these are deputies and highly skilled and trained, and to ensure that they're being used where they should. We can certainly complement code enforcement like we do now with our neighborhood livability
Yeah.
complement. But really, it is to respond to chronic nuisance properties. So.
Can I use an example with you really quick that you'll know about?
Like a drug house where we know that they're.
Estacada property that's had some recent issues that you recently have been helping on with.
Perhaps.
Do you know what I know you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but.
Yes, and I
Okay.
think that's what we have done historically with our NLP team. So making that team a full-time team, which definitely helps ensure that our patrol folks are responding to patrol calls, right? And ensuring that our response times are, within measure. That's obviously one of our priorities. And it's you have constituents that call you, and they call me, and when they call you, you send it to me, is to make our neighborhoods livable and to deal with issues fairly, sometimes using county council and the district attorney's office, but sometimes some properties need a little more attention. And the neighborhoods and the people who I believe vote and support the sheriff's office are very, very happy when we do that. And so this is a very successful team. So for organized crime retail theft, of course, we have a grant that we use for those missions that pay for the overtime, which has been a huge help. We thank the state of Oregon for granting us that grant to do that work because it's been hugely successful. So they could be part of that, but primarily is a standalone team to respond quickly and effectively to reduce crime in our neighborhoods and in our business areas.
Do you remember by Camp Withicum, I was a brand new commissioner, so it was maybe 2 years ago even, we had that RV persistent site right next to that business, and they were, that would chronically and illegally camp out on that, like took over that whole street by that business.
Yes.
And then sheriffs had to be involved. There were some safety issues and some threats that happened. Is this a team like that's an appropriate response for this type of team? I'm just trying to get a handle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As we tighten up the numbers, I agree. Want those numbers too. I think a lot of these tax measures this cycle, and we don't know for sure how it's going to play out, and it very well it may not end up on the May ballot. I know opposition is ramping up to not get it on the May ballot, so we're guessing. I just think the emotion is so hot on this transportation, and it has been allowed to heat up so much, and the fever pitch is so intense that it's unique compared to other, tax situations. It's a lot there. So I can see often emotions run high when people vote. And so sometimes it's just, I literally, smart neighbors who engage in the process. This year, no matter what, no to all taxes, right? And I could very well see that emotion bubble up with very moderate suburban individuals that make up a lot of this county. But they also are rational people, and they could do exactly what Commissioner Helm said. I don't know. Like you said, it's a risk. I tend to lean. It's so much of an increase, but because we don't know what's going to happen in May, and we have to tighten up the numbers with 3, and then if we have to end up on 2 in November, then we end up with 2 in November. But that's a big increase regardless of the environment. And you guys can tell me if you don't agree, then we can. I'm totally. Just my thoughts.
There's no
Yeah.
guarantee they're going to vote for it in November either.
Right. And I might make a comment and go back to Paul. I think that to kind of get to your question, here's how I look at it is I hate to put all my eggs in one basket, right? And if we go out in May, right, and to me, asking for what's reasonable the first time is what I believe, what the public is willing to pay for these services. When I look at the percentage of increase, for example, I mean, just for number 2, that's a 45% increase, right? And for number 3, it's 65% increase, and number 4, it's 85% increase. Those are a lot of increases, right? I think the public does recognize and understand that costs have gone up because I've seen it. I mean, we all have. So there's no reason to expect that they don't believe that the costs for public safety services have gone up as well. So do we go in May or do we go in November? One of the things I look at too is what do we know is going to be on the May ballot, right? And right now there is been brought up that could be on the ballot, right? In November, we could have a lot of school stuff. We could have a lot more money measures. We don't know at this particular time. And if there's a lot of money measures on the issue, a lot of times they're going to focus on, somebody has kids and needs their school supported, they're going to usually pick. You usually don't see them go down the ballot and vote for every money measure just because we can't afford it. So that's why I think we kind of have an idea, at least right now we've asked, it doesn't appear there's going to be a lot of other issues on the ballot. And what I feel like is if worst case scenario, we do go forward and we pick number 2, which is to maintain staff, and we lose it and it's not supported, then we have a choice. Do we either cut it or we do a harder campaign to educate the people to make sure they understand? But if we go one shot, and I can just tell you that when the public safety levy passed and I took office, all the experts that I talked to told me I was going to have to raise twice as much money because it was going to be that much harder to get the message out to really kind of correct the narrative, more or less. So that's why when I think about putting all my eggs in one basket and waiting till November, it's a big gamble. And I guess this is how I foresee things as heaven forbid, it doesn't pass, but if by chance we held off, we didn't do it till November, and it didn't pass, I am going to tell you there are going to be massive layoffs in this county, far beyond the sheriff's office. Dramatic impact to services that we probably haven't ever seen before because, the increases have helped fund a lot of other things because the public has stepped up, and that's what worries me a lot. So probably sleepless nights because the difficulty is really trying to simplify and explain to the public what is this. And to me, I mean, if I was in your position, I think it's a very straightforward message is if this does not pass, we will have to close jail beds, right? If she asks for more money, it just complicates the message too. So I'm just honestly leaning towards May, not wanting to kind of risk it all and go with November. So I know Paul's has a.
Sure, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Sorry, what option in May, if we go in May? Because if you go to 2 and it dies in May, then our only option is 1, because you're not gonna measure die in 2 and then ask for more in November.
You wouldn't ask for more. You would have a decision in November. Do we want to reduce it, or do we want to go back out for that same ask, but work harder on an education campaign that this is what would happen?
I mean, for me, I would need a blatant voters telling me that they want a cut, which is 1. So anything less than 2 is a cut. So the voters would have to make that abundantly clear that they want that cut for me to even want to consider bringing 1 forward. So if 1 is not an option for me, because then we're promoting a cut. So 2 is the baseline. That's just status quo. Promise already made, promises kept, status quo is 2. If we lose 2 in May, then what are you going to go ask for in November? You're going to ask for more than they just said no to? So it's terrifying to ask them for a 65.2% increase or more because we don't have our numbers. But you go to 3 and you shoot for the moon, but you have another shot at 2 in November is the only strategy I can think of that makes any sense.
Well, that's what I think I said.
But I also, you're right, like, we are saying, oh, we reduced it, which we technically did, and we go back, and we go back again, but if you're gonna go back for that second bite of the apple,
But there's a lot of variables in there. For example, that just say it's a very close margin, right? And we just say we barely lose it, and based on maybe it's a bad turnout, right? And when we evaluate it, it could be, okay, we barely lost it, it was this much, and if we, again, go on this education campaign to let them know, we could go back out for option 2 again. And that's where you kind of have to weigh the totality of everything at that particular time. And I have seen agencies do both things. I've seen them where they went out for the same ask, and they got it passed, and I can tell you Happy Valley lost, and they went back out and they reduced it. So I've seen it work both ways, and I think you just have to kind of weigh it on what the turnout is, I mean, if it's like a hair, we're very close, perhaps we just go back out, but I can't tell you that until we kind of get there. But anything else, and I go to Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, well, good conversation. Just to build a little bit on the concerns, I would say that I expect if the transportation package is on the bill, on the May ballot, that there will be a higher number of people that are going to vote no on everything. That would normally not even vote in May.
yeah, that's right.
Right?
I agree.
So we know that that's going to be a turnout that's going to be a negative turnout, right? I've seen that happen watching elections for all these years. So the strategy of making an ask, and then if there's a hell no, then you roll it back, right? And say, we heard you, we're rolling it back, so on. So I would hate to roll it back to number one with a cut, right? Knowing that in my experience, in this county, and I think all of you would agree that my experience is that we put a high value on public safety and a lot of confidence in the sheriff's office. They do good work and they got a good reputation, so I recognize that. However, I will say that when I've had this discussion with Sheriff Roberts back in, was it 2012 or whenever that was, we were having the same discussion, and Sheriff Roberts was very apprehensive to ask for more, and I pleaded with him, asked for more, and you were concerned, and you're really saying the same thing, is that concerned that people wouldn't pay for it, and that it would be really, really close. And it was, I won't say a landslide, but it was 73%, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So my instincts tell me that there'll be more support maybe than you're anticipating, okay, for this. But that doesn't necessarily mean with this anti-transportation package, that would play out quite clearly, right? I'm concerned about that. So now knowing that I shared all of that, and knowing that if we put something on the ballot, I'm inclined towards 3 and a rollback towards 2. So with that, I have questions on number 3. And so I want to speak, just in my history of NLP, because I was on the board when we had a number of deputies that had this whole thing of a nuisance property, and we changed the code and did great work. I'm a big believer in that program. I mean, they've done great work. I've been involved in people's living rooms along with the CCSO deputies and the DA and code enforcement people, that whole team that NLP, so I know how it works. And in my conversations with Assistant DA Bill Stewart and our staff here, knowing that caseload is about a certain, anywhere from active, in my memory, 5 to 15 cases, right, caseload. So one of my questions is going to be, is this 11 address that caseload 24/7, or does it only address it, 5 days a week? What is that? Because it seems like 11's a lot, okay, 11 deputies, right? If the caseload has gotten really, really big, then maybe 11's justified. So that's my thinking there, along with my concern and being a systems thinker. It's not just CCSO deputies that make the NLP work. You need to have the DA's office there with you, right? There's a certain number, you have a volume of work there that if the DA's overloaded, you can only do so much. So, and same goes to code enforcement, right? Code enforcement seeing cuts, can code enforcement keep up? So what is that magic number pipeline of ancillary departments, services that make NLP work? So ideally, I don't think it's in here, is the strategy to use some of these funds to help the DA's office and code enforcement? Are some of these funds, or is this all 11 CCSO only positions?
Yeah, it's 11 CCSO positions. So, and I say NLP light, so it's not going to be a replica of the NLP program. So this is a team that will go to problem areas and solve problems. And it will be 7 days a week. I can't guarantee it's 24/7, that's not enough deputies, right? So you have to have the supervisors and the deputies, but the team will be resourced 7 days a week. And really it is to take the load off patrol, right? And to respond and to be able to have not tied to responding to 911 calls, to deal with problem locations, areas, wanted subjects perhaps. So I say NLP light, it's very similar to that team. It's not a replica of that team. It won't replicate that team.
Okay.
But that is all personnel, right, to sustain that team, and the materials and services for that team to do that work.
My concern is that the DA's office has taken haircuts every year, budget-wise, right? And code enforcement has taken haircuts because we're always, there's not enough funds. So my question on the NLP side, knowing your clarification, would there be an expectation that we would have similar or enhanced services in order to make the NLP portion of what you just stated work? That my concern, we're going the wrong way as far as funding for that. Not that we don't want to fund the code enforcement, that we don't want to fund the DA's office. I'm just wondering if if they're adequately sized proportionally to meet that demand.
Well, I didn't contemplate that part because really the NLP team for me is to alleviate some of the calls for patrol. And so it is focused on that, hotspots, on wanted folks, things that the patrol deputies don't have time for, right? And so it is an NLP light team. It's not going to replace the NLP team or the work with the DA's office.
Jerry, yield back.
All right. Quite a robust conversation. And I'm not sure we're ready for a motion. What do you think, Gary?
The sooner you give staff guidance, the sooner we can help propose ballot language and meet the timelines. But if you're not ready, we can bring it back next week. And there's data you've asked for, Commissioner Savas. We'll provide that as soon as we can. But what else do you need to help you make your decision?
Commissioner West has a comment.
So if we can, like I said, do two things simultaneously, Commissioner Helm and Commissioner Savas asked very good numbers questions. So as we tighten those things up to make sure that we're as accurate as possible for the funding of the levy, can we still make a decision today on the option that we'd like to move forward with and while we work on that? Am I understanding correctly, we're in a position to do that?
You could do that,
I
yes.
think so.
Is the board I'll make a motion if the board is comfortable, or somebody can make a motion. But before I do, I'll just say where I'd be supporting before anybody throws out a motion. It's option, just because of if I had to read the tea leaves based on the information I have today, which could change tomorrow. But based on what we have today, it would be option 3 to put onto the May ballot. And we will see. I know that there is going to be a robust opposition to changing the voters' intent, even for the May ballot. That's up to the legislature and those that are in opposition to it having the date changed. That's not up to us. We'll let the legislature do the legislature thing. However, based on what we have today, that would be where I would support a motion, with us knowing full well that if it doesn't pass, we're going to come back and ask for option 2 potentially in November. but I'm just gonna tell you where and then I don't know, I can make a motion, but I don't wanna like, then be the only, I don't know where everybody, I don't totally know where everybody else is. I'm putting my cards out there.
No, and I think we all kind of said that anyway.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh,
And I'm happy to make a motion.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to make it.
Are Martha's ready, or
We're both.
anybody?
I move to set the levy rate at 0.608 cents per 1,000 assessed home value and direct staff to return with draft ballot measure language along with some numbers next time.
Second.
Sometime.
All right, Commissioner Helm has moved to set the levy rate at 0.608 cents per thousand assessed home value and direct staff to return with the draft ballot measure language along with some quote numbers. And it's been seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Further discussion?
Chair, I'm inclined not to support this because it's specific to the millage rate. And I know that there's clarification on that. I would be more comfortable if the motion was simply, let's do deeper work on option 3 or 2 or 3 and 2 or whatever that number is, and look at the options. That I would support today. But as far as stating a number specific, the finances aren't clear to me that's a valid thing to do at this point.
And I guess that's, thank you, Paul. I think that's where this is my personal opinion, I'm looking for Gary for some direction. With that kind of being said, I feel like we need to get the data before we make the motion. I mean, and because it's just kind of leaving it open. We're between 2 and 3, and I just feel like perhaps staff needs to do some work, figure those numbers out and bring it back. So I guess, you already got your light on. Go ahead, what do you think?
I mean, I'm anticipating potentially an 8% increase on those numbers. That's not exorbitantly different. I trust so far everything I've heard from all sources, county finance, the sheriff's team, Gary, the Lord's work you guys have been doing on this issue, that we're relatively close. I'm sure if we have to make a tweak to that number, that's not the end of the world, but we are on a timeline. So I would still support the does it even have a second yet? There's a motion on the table.
Yeah.
So it has a second, so we're in discussion.
Yeah, we're in discussion.
I'm going to support the motion, knowing that we're still doing the work.
Yeah.
And all of us is clear, publicly want to get there, we will. But so we can just continue to move, I'm going to support the motion.
And I know, and Paul Sandy wasn't, and I guess, I'm wondering if we did it more specifically, and I'm just throwing this out for a discussion, but what if you said it's between 0.534 and 0.608, and based on, having them come back?
I can amend the motion.
I mean, I guess,
Or-
go ahead, Gary, I'm trying to.
So I suggest that if you're willing, Commissioner Helm, you amend your motion to just take out the numbers, but it would be option 3 maintains the existing sheriff's levy and funds a specialized crime reduction team. That's the option. Come back with an absolute certainty on the number, with the ballot language. And we bring them both back to you at the same time.
Okay. I will amend the motion, and I move that we approve option 3, which leaves everything as is, but adds 11 special crime team members to the team, and that this will be able to be changed in the future. Correct?
Close enough, yes.
Close enough?
Okay,
All right, something like that.
I'll second that.
All right, I hope I get this. So Commissioner Helm has moved to approve option number 3, the crime reduction unit consisting of 11 staff, and to direct staff to return along with some more specific numbers.
And ballot language.
And ballot language, and that was seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, close enough. So with that being said, any other comments?
Well, so Andrew is Chair, you said one thing and Andrew's crafting another. No one's at blame here. I was just wondering, maybe a friendly amendment that we just change it to this will, staff will, well, let me read it out loud here. I move that we approve option 3, which leaves everything as is, but adds 11, and staff will bring back refined numbers.
Yeah, I'm good with that. That's
Okay.
fine.
Diana, you want to read this then?
Yes.
And then just redo it one last time so we're all.
All right, I move that we approve option number 3, which leaves everything as is, but adds 11 special crime reduction team members, and staff will bring back refined numbers.
I will second that.
All right, I think we're on a path here. Commissioner Helm has moved to approve option number 3, leaves everything as is, but adds 11 special crime reduction members, and staff will bring back refined numbers. Seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Whew, call for a vote.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Helm,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. How
All
about
right, so staff has the next, no later than the next 3 weeks to bring this back to you. We will not wait till the third week.
Thank
As
you.
soon as possible, we'll bring this back to you for your review and discussion, and then final decision.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm thinking about taking a short
Short
5-minute
break,
break.
yes.
So let's take a short 5-minute break. All right, we'll resume our meeting. And Gary, what's next?
Thank you, Chair. Your next policy session is budget preparation discussion. Cindy Becker from County Administration and Elizabeth Comfort from the Finance Department will present. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is really the fun policy session for you. You don't have to make any decisions. It's really about having a conversation. This came about as I was looking at some other jurisdictions and some things, and it came to my attention that when we get to the Budget Committee, you always have to be in a reactive mode. And so the purpose of today's policy session is just to have a conversation about food for thought, things to keep in mind as you start looking at the budgets. Here's some context, rather than just getting these numbers and having to say, yeah, I like this, I don't like this, and other conversations. They're good conversations, but I think this is an opportunity to step back from them and just talk about what's coming, what's already on your plate, and what's coming. So with that, the next slide is just the agenda, which is we're going to talk about the strategic plan. And in terms of the financial parts of it, I remind you of the budget calendar, some important things about the budget manual that in terms of directions that have been given to the departments, so you'll know what the expectations are when they come to you. A little bit about budget history in terms of trends and expenses and revenue, and the budget pressures that you're facing today, and then we'll just open it up for questions. Okay. So we'll start with the strategic plan. And what I've done here is gone through the items on the strategic plan and underlined those parts that are going to have a financial implication. Doesn't mean you have to solve it today, but these are not without financial implications. And it's important to remember as you are moving forward and making decisions about the budget to keep these things in mind. Are you going to fund them? Are you not going to fund them? Or do you want to, is this a long-term view? But it's important that these are not just words, if you will, but they do have implications for the budget. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, and then if you have questions, and any technical questions, obviously Elizabeth has all answers to that. So the strategic plan, again, I'm not going to go through these, but they go over 2 pages, and so they're not just the titles of the subject areas, but what you're intending by each of those, so what they mean to you. So what does public trust and good government mean, et cetera? Vibrant economy, increasing available land, that will probably come at a cost. So again, it's context as you do your budget deliberations. The next page is a budget calendar, just a reminder on what's going to happen over the next several months, including this week, the budget kickoff will be with Gary presiding and all the departments to talk about what the expectations are, and that will go through the year. So those are just key dates for you to keep in mind. The next one is around the budget manual. And I didn't want to take the whole budget manual out, obviously, but I do think there are things that you need to know that departments are told about when they put their budgets together. So, example, missed deadlines without an approved extension. If you're going to constantly be late, you meaning a department, then the finance may put together your budget for you. And so we want people to be accountable and timely. The departments are supposed to, monitor the total other actual spending purchase orders. So the expectation is that when you put your budget together, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but you should be fully aware and monitoring. New or vacant positions submitted without an adjustment to start date. So what happens is people request new positions, and they, in the past, have budgeted them for 12 months. Well, if the budget doesn't get approved until June, we know that new positions are not going to start July 1st. So when you're putting your budget together, you really should prorate your positions for the first year and then annualize them in subsequent years. We're also talking about, again, departments and offices must seek to maximize revenue to reduce the need for general fund support. General fund support should be last. Any other grants or other funding that you have available should be first. And then in terms of directors and officials maintaining expenses within their budgets, and so that, again, goes back to monitoring your budget. And then if estimates in revenue or expenses change, expenditures must be adjusted to remain within the budget. The revenue kind of dictates it. So if your revenue goes down, then the expectation is that you will manage your expenses accordingly. Budget must be balanced to the dollar by program. That's I don't know if that's the same as last year. It was program by
Always.
fund. Okay. So if the county administrator has approved a new program request, the new program must be budget neutral. So new programs will not be considered without a new revenue source or reductions elsewhere to achieve the balance. So the expectation is you don't come up with, great ideas are great ideas, but then where are you going to cut to fund them? So that is an important expectation. So grant revenues received but not expended at year end, and as you know, some of our departments get a lot of grants. So those, if they're not expended at year end, they will be recorded as deferred revenue and appear as new revenue in the following year. This has been some confusion about where that gets placed. Some departments think it's contingency. Some of them want to put it into certain balances. So we just want to make that clear. I know if you really have no life and want to read the entire budget manual, you're certainly welcome to do that, and we can send that to you. But I thought this was important that you had that information. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Chair and Commissioners, as we saw on the calendar page before, we're having our budget kickoff tomorrow. There's two components to the budget kickoff. One is to go over, what are the expectations of the deadlines that go into putting the budget together. There are several phases of that. What are the increases that have been approved by the administrator? And then there's the second part, which is the budget manual. So we go over each of these, and there's a lot more. As Cindy said, this is just over a half a dozen of probably 18 pages of the budget manual. And we pull out if there's anything new, but we don't have anything new this year. This is the same budget manual we've primarily been using for the last 7 budgets. So, but we do go over it because we have new staff and we want to reinforce, the guidelines to help each of the departments be successful in this process.
Chair?
Yes.
Clarification. You said tomorrow?
Correct, tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, so there must be a issue with the calendar because yesterday I had a glitch where my calendar on my iPhone said one thing and then my calendar on my laptop said another. I don't see any budget committee meeting tomorrow.
Okay, let me clarify, sorry. There is a budget committee meeting that is scheduled for February 10th.
Okay.
Tomorrow's meeting are both of them, there are 2 of them, they are for the department folks. So there'll be department
Okay.
directors and department budget staff. So you're off the hook.
All right, I just want to make sure because I'm a little bit apprehensive. I haven't addressed this with staff yet. I forgot to mention yesterday's little glitch. So right now I don't trust the calendar for now until I understand what the glitch is. Thank you.
So if anybody, again, would like the whole budget manual, we would be happy to send it to you. We can also, it is on the intranet as well. But so I think it's important that the goal here is to have, obviously, Gary's required by law to present you with a balanced budget. But there's a lot of work that goes into that, and there are a lot of expectations that are articulated to departments as they put their budgets together. The next couple of pages are really looking backwards and to look at what the trends have been in revenue and expenditures. So page 7, I think we're going back to 18, 19, and you can see what's happened. These are the key revenue sources. The general fund support is in the black. Taxes are in the orange. And so you can see what has happened with them. You can see that the charges have clearly gone up. And, excuse me, not the charges, I have the wrong one, sorry. Beginning fund balance, the charges have pretty much stayed the same, and the other revenue sources have pretty much stayed pretty consistent over the years. But you can also see on the next page, which is our expenses, and I just lumped them into personal services, M&S, and capital outlay. Clearly, as we've said many times, the personal services are the bulk of our expenses across all departments. Those are continuing to rise. And if you look at the numbers and the trends, and you'll see it on the next few pages, but if you look at the personnel services, you can see that starting at 150 and going up to 200,000, whereas the taxes starting at 140 and going up to 180. And then that's obviously been supplemented by the other revenue sources, but our expenses overall are increasing faster than our revenue. And I know Commissioner Savas has said this oftentimes, and this just, again, proves the point. The next couple of pages, I wanted to talk about going forward. What are the pressures that are upon us or upon you with the budget? So the countywide revenue challenges, expenses continue to outpace our revenue overall. State and federal grant reductions, that we're seeing that now. We are looking ahead with the federal reductions, and we know that the state is making reductions along with that. We don't know what those numbers are going to be. That's, we're projecting, they're projecting, but that clearly is a pressure on our revenue. And changing state and federal policies that impact the budget. So there's one thing about the actual numbers, there's another thing about policies which could impact eligibility for those services. And the sheriff levy renewal is a pressure on the budget. The NCPRD tax rate, whether or not that's going to go out to the voters. The ELED tax base is shrinking and is not keeping up with the expenses for ELED. And then we're looking at the supported housing services potential future changes. So all of these can have, I would say, we're not looking for this to have a positive impact on the budget. We're very concerned about the negative impacts that these pressures will have on our budget. The next area is the countywide expense challenges. So as I mentioned earlier, there are costs associated with the strategic projects. And those are costs that some of them may be in our budgets, and I would say probably just as many are not in the budgets and moving forward. Personnel increase in the labor contracts and labor market recruitment. We are seeing more and more and more market studies because we're not keeping pace with other surrounding markets for the same positions. And what happens when that occurs is we have to look at should those positions be paid higher? What is the impact to those budgets? So that's just something that is occurring way more than it used to. The cost of goods and services obviously is increasing. We've said that before. You said this in numerous budget sessions. From capital outlay, we don't have a healthy deferred maintenance account. That is something that I know will be talked about at some point in time. Vehicle replacement, what should it be? How much should it cost? That will impact us. Technology infrastructure. I think if you talk to technology services, they will tell you that they're running as fast as they can to keep pace, but I don't think we're leading anything by leaps and bounds. And so that is a concern, whether it's from security, whether it's from the apps, whether it's, they're working as hard as they can, but the entire infrastructure needs a boost before it goes the other way. New facilities, recovery campus, looking at the jail, anything else we're looking about is obviously going to have an impact on our expenses. And then services. Now, the reason I bring that in, because we've had these conversations on and off, mandated versus non-mandated services. Now, there's always questions about, well, what is a mandated service, and what about if it's not mandated, but it's something that the commissioners want? We still have to look at that, but as we see impacts on our revenue, I think that issue is going to come back to you, say, okay, if that revenue is lowered X, Y, Z, do we offer all the services that we've been able to offer, and how do we differentiate those? So I'm going to stop talking and just see if you have questions, but these are things that I think it's important for you all to, not just me, Gary, thinks it's important that you should all be thinking about as we move forward in conversations. I'm stopping now.
I don't see any
Questions or?
questions.
Well, you didn't put anything down about the library districts, which I.
The what?
The library district, that popped into my head when you were talking about it. But it seems as if the group has decided not to move forward with something, but at some point, that's going to be an issue too.
Yeah, it's about a couple, 3 years out. I
Yep,
think.
but it's coming. I can
Yep.
see it coming. Yep.
I just was going to comment, I think it would be nice to see in writing what's mandated and what's not, just to provide clarity. Particularly if we have to make cuts, I'd like to know kind of what those things are and have kind of a heads up. I think that's, I mean, I have a general idea, right? I think a lot of us do, but what that would mean for us, so.
We can do that. We have that. We'd be happy to update it and bring it forward.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that'd be great. Go ahead. You can just tap me on the shoulder.
It's so far away.
Just flip that one up.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see that. I'd also like to see what services we provide versus surrounding counties. Because I've heard that we provide services that other counties don't. And if it's not mandated, are there places where we can cut, that it wouldn't be, I know it hurts people. We have a lot of safety net programs, and I understand that. But as we are coming up against the fiscal cliff, I would like to know what other counties have done around us.
Well, and I would say two things. One is, are there services we're providing that others are not? And are those services being provided by public employees or the private sector?
private sector,
Because some of
exactly.
us provide the same services, but the way we provide them are very different.
And I think just kind of following up on that, one of the things I would oftentimes do a comparison between us and Washington County. And I would see they would have a lot more, I would say, support staff doing stuff that higher administrators would be doing, right? And not necessarily good use of our money sometimes to have somebody at that high level doing some of that stuff. So it's also, I think, interesting to see kind of what their role and responsibility is and how they kind of help support. But all this is great. I think it's a lot of the discussion we're talking about, and you make some really good points.
Yeah, my comment is, as Cindy stated, we've been seeing this thing coming, and we're slowly just getting eaten alive with expenses. And I think that's the trend and reality that we need to be mindful of all the time and figure out ways that we can conserve dollars and expenditures as best as possible. Other than that, we're going to run out of choices other than cutting personnel. I know that we don't want, something that we want to do as a last resort, but we're right there right now. We're this close. Too close.
All right. Gary, do you have anything else? I wanted to come back to you.
No.
Well, that was a firm no, so if any of my colleagues don't have any other comments, we'll go ahead and conclude today's meeting. And thank you, Cindy.
Thank
and
you.
you guys both very much, Elizabeth. Thank you. Okay.